Hello Rahul, thank you for talking to VC Circle. If you were to give me a view from the top, of how a LP is looking at India, what the kind of some of the concerns or the positives and negatives you see?
I think LPs have one concern, and that's returns, and second concern, which is return, and a third concern, which is returns. And I think that's what they're really interested in. And I think that their concern is that a lot of exciting prospects which they saw, which private equity was engaged in, have ultimately not fructified and given them the returns. And I think there are a whole host of structural issues around it. But the bottom line is that a lot of the older investors haven't really earned a good return having invested in India, whether it's because of the currency, it's the lack of enforceability of contracts, it's the delays in projects, or a whole host of other issues. But the bottom line is that, frankly, the private equity industry hasn't delivered the returns it ought to have to keep attracting international capital at the rate at which it has got used to.
Interesting. You are someone who's an industry veteran. You have like 1.5 cycle experience now. In terms of private equity in India, particularly not being able to deliver, what do you think are the major reasons?
I think a lot of them are structural, regulatory, structural, enforceability of contracts. A lot of them are to do with the economy itself.
Okay.
And a lot of them are to do with the immaturity of the industry itself, and our own issues in terms of productivity, efficiency, judgment. And I think that it's a combination of all of these, but they've all added up to not such a great outcome ultimately. I think that over time we will get better at what we do as an industry. Two, there will be firms which will stand out, and there will be some amount of natural Darwinian natural selection which takes place.
Absolutely.
And they will also, I'm a firm believer that the only go in terms of our economic management of the country is up. So, it's got to get better. The good thing is that that 6.5%, 7% GDP growth is pretty much going to be there regardless of what happens in terms of, and in the world today, and in today's environment, I think that's a pretty good number. The first and foremost thing, I would think a lot of dubiousness creeps in because the government is on cash system of accounting as against accrual. I think if they get onto the accrual system of accounting, a lot of this game playing will itself correct. Two, I think that there needs to be, we need to have our bureaucracy and government actually be delivering solutions and not be rulers who rule the masses. I think that mindset difference has to be there. There has to be accountability to deliver solutions. I think the Ministry of Chemicals pharmaceuticals.
True.
As a Korean conductor, there is tremendous amount of documented literature as to how they went. I think we need to hold people responsible within our government for solutions. And I also believe that whether it's the power sector or any infrastructure sector, I think the government is responsible for getting all the permissions and then handing it over to industry. I think it's wrong to expect industry to be running around trying to get permissioning for various things. And institutions, it's become more and more important. Otherwise projects start and are often delayed halfway because one regulator or the other changed his mind as it. I think there needs to be accountability on that score. There needs to be someone in the government who is actually in charge of coordinating different parts of the government itself.
True.
And delivering something which can be implemented to independent entrepreneurs. And all items on the concurrent list of our constitution are severe stumbling blocks. Infrastructure is a severe stumbling block, and both these I think need to be addressed post haste, as is power and energy.
True. Against a backdrop of so many structural regulatory changes in India. And there's still so much of dry powder, capital overhang right now. So do you think there's still more room for capital to come to India, and it's actually true for Indian fund managers to really go out and raise money? And do you think that, especially considering the private opportunity deal making is so intense right now with competition and keep, what do you think?
It's really, so if you in management macro, look at the deploy it, especially given the dilution in fiduciary responsibility that I spoke about earlier. But if you look at the opportunity set, you look at what it could take to transform this country from the third world to the first, and that opportunity lies before us. We need the vision and we need the managerial know-how to actually get it implemented. Then whatever capital comes in is actually going to be short. We can absorb any amount of capital. But I think we need leadership, we need some vision, and we need people in power to be not rulers, but solution providers.
I'm talking about private equity, like first-time fund managers. What do you think about that in terms of their fundraising? What they should really focus on?
Focus on what their value proposition is and be really good at that and figure out why they bring to the table. And I would stress that. I think it would be a mistake for first-time fund managers to try to be all things to all people. I think they should specialize, they should know what they're good at, and they should do that really well. And I think that's the best chance of success.
Okay, last question. In terms of your investment strategy, what looks good to you right now in terms of sectors or the strategy which you would really pursue given the current market?
I think that from a cyclical perspective, we think interest rates have topped out. If you play the cyclical story, then sensitive would be attractive at this point in the cycle. From a structural perspective, financial under-invested in the Indian context, and that would be attractive. And if you want to lay some degree of safety in your portfolio and predictability, then I think consumer sector is always called for, consumer and healthcare.
True.
And so I think you have to take a balanced approach and take a long view, and I think that will generate good returns.
Talk about real estate.
I think real estate, every country when it grows richer urbanizes. And our issue with urbanization has been because of lack of planning around urbanization. And as a consequence, if you look at most prices of most real estate products in our larger cities, it reflects actually gross shortages in all of these. It does not reflect quality of the product, it reflects shortages, which means there is tremendous amount of opportunity to actually grow this sector very, very significantly. And the challenge has been all the regulatory frameworks being opaque and non-transparent. And I think that wherever you see some cleaning up of that or some transparency coming in there, you will see tremendous growth, which is being today suppressed. And tremendous opportunities for the entire value chain, which means if homes are built, it's going to be a fillip for durables. There will be a requirement for urban transport solutions. There will be healthcare, education opportunities. There will also be things like home furnishings. So the entire value chain will get a huge fillip if we can fix our land usage. And every country in the world has urbanized when they have per capita income has gone up. If amongst our rulers recognizes this and actually plans for it, it would dramatically change the structural growth rates of this country.
Yeah. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you for talking.
You're welcome.